Hello, everyone, and welcome to another great episode of the Gridiron Glory here with Will and Tad, your hosts. We cover all 32 teams in the NFL. Today, we bring you a Week 10 recap featuring two teams that were leading their divisions going into the game. The 6-2 Pittsburgh Steelers faced the 7-2 Washington Commanders. So the Steelers, they come away with a big road win, 28-27, to improve to 7-2, remaining in first place in the AFC North. The Commanders fall to 7-3, and they fall to second place in the NFC East. In the win for Pittsburgh, Russell Wilson was 14 of 28, 195 yards, three touchdowns, one interception, and also three rushing yards. So you could say Russell Wilson, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's welding very well, as he goes about and does his thing. Some impressive rushing by both Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. Warren 14 for 66, Harris 21 for 53, and a touchdown. You'd probably want to see Harris improve his yards per carry of 2.5, but he still did a solid job of getting some tough yards. George Pickens had a solid game, 5 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown.
And where would you rate George Pickens amongst the wide receivers in the AFC?
When I think of the wide receivers in the AFC, and I think of a guy like George Pickens, I think that this is an incredibly talented player, that he hasn't put it together yet. He's had some questionable decision making and effort levels throughout his career, but when he puts it all together, you know the talent's there with a guy like George Pickens, and they just need to do what they can to unlock his talent. So very interesting there. Mike Williams, the newest addition to the Pittsburgh Steelers, has a huge touchdown. His only catch of the game, a 32-yard touchdown. So a big play for the new wide receiver for the Steelers. And what's your take on this offense with the addition of Mike Williams?
I think the addition of Mike Williams, Tad, when I look at a guy like Mike Williams, out of Clemson, the 30-year-old, he gets that touchdown. I mean, I think a veteran, if nothing else. It's a good addition to their squad. And, I mean, I'm just looking at his career stats real quick. He's not he's solid enough,
He is a playmaker. He is a guy that can be productive for this Pittsburgh team. I think as he continues to grow and acclimate with the offense, he could be a weapon for Russell Wilson. Obviously, the number one is George Pickens, and the key to their season remains to be unlocking George Pickens' top potential, but having a guy like Williams helps. Now, looking at the incredibly talented Pittsburgh defense, they did allow the 27 points, but they shut out the Washington Commanders in the fourth quarter, so they closed very well, as you would expect a Pittsburgh defense to do. Cameron Hayward had two huge sacks and also a pass deflection, 2 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits. So,
and just Russell Wilson just really showed a lot of grit, grind, and resiliency. And especially on that, that go-ahead drive in the fourth quarter, Tad. Like it wasn't super flashy. It wasn't, but I just really like how Russell Wilson just looks like a much more confident quarterback, being able to deliver drives and deliver throws.
Yeah, Russell Wilson, he's the veteran quarterback that Pittsburgh has needed for the past several years. And I think they have him, and I think we're seeing what Mike Tomlin can do with a quarterback that can make respectable plays.
But real quick, on the flip side of things, Jaden Daniels, man, he went out there. The stat line doesn't look flashy, but 17 to 34, 202 yards. He made some prolific throws. He led some prolific drives. What was your take on Jaden Daniels throughout this game? For me, it's just like, wow. I mean, he's a rookie, but he's out there, playing like he's a longtime vet at this point. Just I mean, even the basic fundamentals, like the basic fundamentals, the basic dynamics of being a quarterback, just how he can step back in the pocket and deliver a confident throw. Being able to just looking like he's been doing it for years. And um,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah, it
mean,
was
obviously,
certainly.
and then I mean, obviously, even on that, on that very last drive, you're fighting, you're putting your team in a position to, try to get the field goal and everything. And I mean, it just didn't work out there at the very end for the Commanders. But even at the very end, Jaden Daniels showed a lot of fight and a lot of grit as a leader. I mean, this game, Tad, just spoke me to more of Mike Tomlin as a game manager versus,
Yeah.
I mean, this was a good game by Jaden Daniels and his offense.
I think it was an all right game for Jaden Daniels. I mean, he, like you said, he wasn't flashy. He did what he could to execute the game plan, but in the end, like Pittsburgh is a very difficult defense to play, and at the end of the game, it's just the Pittsburgh Steelers did what they do. They found a way to win. They did just that. Eckler had 2 touchdowns, so that was a nice game for him on the ground. McLaurin had 113 yards receiving, so he was their biggest receiving threat. So a quality showing there, a veteran if nothing else. Yeah, I mean Washington, they did what they could. They competed. It was their first home loss of the year, so a tough one to lose, but they just did what they could. And
Now
Pittsburgh,
they're a half game back of Philadelphia in their division.
yeah, yeah, and now Pittsburgh. I mean, this was the way I saw this was a veteran coached Pittsburgh team that's been there, done that. They've won a lot of close games throughout the past several years, and going up against a Washington team that's still up and coming. They don't quite have the experience factor that Pittsburgh does, and I mean it showed. I mean Pittsburgh's experience won the day.
Defensively, real quick for Pittsburgh, because I feel like Pittsburgh's really more known, like really especially known for their defense. I mean, yeah, guys like Patrick Queen, right? 7 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss.
Yeah,
Preston Smith, he had a couple tackles for loss, including a sack. Cameron Hayward, Tad, really quick, I would sincerely love to please ask you, where would you rank Cameron Hayward amongst defensive tackles in the NFL?
yeah. As I was saying earlier, he had the big game. He had the 2 sacks and a pass deflection and stuff. He's just a big part of this defensive line. That's obviously it's led by T.J. Watt, but he's a big factor there too. This is just an unbelievable defense that did a lot of good in this game. Obviously, Washington got the better of them at some point early in the game, but a resilient defense. They just closed the game out like you would expect a Pittsburgh team to do.
Pittsburgh wins 28-27. Next week, the Pittsburgh Steelers play a huge game against the Baltimore Ravens. Tad, where would you rank Pittsburgh and Baltimore amongst AFC rivalries?
Honestly, like throughout the years, with all the history, with all the fanfare, with how much these two teams just truly hate each other, the fan bases hate each other. I'd have a hard time putting it anywhere other than number 1 in the AFC.
Love to hear it. Yeah, and then the Washington Commanders, they go on the road and play at the Philadelphia Eagles Week 11. That'll be Thursday Night Football. And yeah, Tad, where would you rank Eagles and Commanders amongst NFC rivalries?
Honestly, it's one of the more, I'd say, underrated rivalries. I mean, like you hear all the time about like the Cowboys and the Eagles and the Giants as the NFC East rivalries, but I mean these two teams they love to scrap as well. So I mean it's definitely up there as a rivalry.
Oh yeah. 7-3, 7-2, NFC East staked on the line on a Thursday night match for the Commanders. But yeah, Steelers win 28-27 in this Week 10 matchup between the Steelers and the Commanders. Did you have any other final thoughts or takes on this game, sir?
I did not. So yeah, thank you for watching, following along, liking, subscribing, all that good stuff. Thank you for being the community of the Gridiron Glory, and thanks for watching.